economic foundation of the country. Hence, the exchange is not only known for the 5 markets which it operates: main market, junior market, US dollar market, bond market, private market, but it is also recognized for its efficient depository services. The JSE's Depository Services Unit provides clearing and settlement, custody services, pledging of securities, mandate processing, and audit confirmation, among other corporate secretarial services. We are a firm believer in transparency and effective regulation. Hence, the JSE was demutualized in 2008. This saw the establishment of the Regulatory Market Oversight Division to ensure that the JSE's commercial and regulatory arms operate as independent units to allow for proper corporate fiduciary management. This process has strengthened our listed companies to be better able to manage disruptions and usually to merge as stronger institutions. Through hard work and input of all market participants, the JSE has been twice recognized by Bloomberg as the best performing stock exchange in the world in 2015 and 2018. The JSE is also recognized for hosting the leading investments and capital markets conferences in the Caribbean, and we want to become known to host the leading conferences in the world. The stock exchange has not only looked to facilitate business success, but also looked at how to give back to society. And out of that was born the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange, JSSE, which has risen to the occasion and has been contributing well in reshaping the social fabric of our society. The JSE is well aware of the need for market education for sustainability through a well-trained workforce. Therefore, the JSE has developed accredited e-campus programs to ensure that the industry at all professional levels has the cadre of staff that is needed to propel it forward. Please visit the eCampus student portal at ecampus.jamstockx.com. Please visit the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange at jsse.jamstockx.com. For more about the Jamaica Stock Exchange, please visit jamstockx.com. What's next for the JSE? The Caribbean Business Exchange Cable Television Channel. Your region, your business, your source. The Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE, has been operating for over 50 years with a mandate to mobilize capital. The JSE has done this not only to grow business and create wealth for investors, but in doing so has become a part of the economic foundation of the country. Hence, the exchange is not only known for the 5 markets which it operates: main market, junior market, US dollar market, bond market, private market, but it is also recognized for its efficient depository services. The JSE's Depository Services Unit provides clearing and settlement, custody services, pledging of securities, mandate processing, and audit confirmation, among other corporate secretarial services. We are a firm believer in transparency and effective regulation. Hence, the JSE was demutualized in 2008. This saw the establishment of the Regulatory Market Oversight Division to ensure that the JSE's commercial and regulatory arms operate as independent units to allow for proper proper corporate fiduciary management. This process has strengthened our listed companies to be better able to manage disruptions and usually to merge as stronger institutions. Through hard work and input of all market participants, the JSE has been twice recognized by Bloomberg as the best performing stock exchange in the world.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. We're about to begin. Thank you very much. Good morning again. Welcome to this launch event as the Jamaica Stock Exchange launches its Green Sustainability and Sustainably Linked Bond Guide as part of the Jamaica Stock Exchange's Sustainable Finance Initiative to establish a framework for the listing and trading of green bonds. My name is Andre Gooden, and we are going to commence. We expect the minister to arrive shortly, but we will commence. I'm now going to ask, firstly, as we normally do, we start with prayer, and we ask Ms. Charlene Steer, Marketing Officer, Jamaica Stock Exchange Group, to lead us in prayer.
Together. The songwriter proclaims, "How lovely are the feet of him who brings good news." Today, Heavenly Father, because of the standards you have set in the earth, the seas, and the firmaments, we gather in this auditorium to proclaim the good news that the journey to establish the green, social, sustainable bond has come into fruition, and no longer just an ideation, but it is now a written covenant between us and business partners to guide and protect creation. Father, we thank you for the bright minds and diligence that brought this work to effect. Mrs. Patrice Smith-Lindo, the project manager, Dr. Marilyn Street Forrest, the Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, who never lets an opportunity fade, the government of Jamaica and ministers who continue to align with the vision and work of the exchange, IDB Invest, which has always readily partnered with the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and all partners, the diplomatic corps, regulatory bodies, agencies, legal fraternities, executives, associations, and the media, international and locally. We give you thanks, O God, and bless their unity of purpose. Heavenly Father, as we take these first steps in officially releasing the Bond Guide, let the power of your Holy Spirit order our way. For you, Jehovah, owns the original blueprint of Jamaica and the universe. Genesis 1 declares, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth and established it upon the waters. The earth for man to dwell and steward." In Revelation 22, you end, "How wonderful are the waters of life." In Jamaica's national anthem, we begin, "Eternal Father, bless our land," and you have, "Thank you." In return, we pledge to advance the welfare of the whole human race. So, Father, in this journey of the green bond market, go with us across the region and the nations of the world. Let there be health and prosperity everywhere, in land, plants, animals, waters, long life, and riches galore. Bless, establish, and prosper our plans according to your pleasure and mercies. Bless all the proceedings, hospitality, and refreshment, and let everyone be glad about today and their continued involvement going forward. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Charlene. The Jamaica Stock Exchange is a member of the Sustainable Stock Exchange, a United Nations Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative, which recognizes the pivotal role it plays in the development of sustainable economies. And in this vein, with our partners, we decided to develop guidance, products, and segments that could increase the amount of capital available and dedicated to green, social, sustainability, and sustainability-linked initiatives. These are, in fact, aligned with the government's reform measure under the IMF agreement, particularly within the Resilient and Sustainable Facility, which is Pillar 3, and the Greening of the Financial Sector, RM12, which mandates the establishment of a framework for green bond issuance and trading. So with that in mind, as our goal, this is why we're here. I neglected to welcome those joining us online. I'm sorry, but we're happy to have you online. I'm now going to ask, as we proceed, our Managing Director, Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, to do the official welcome and her own opening remarks.
Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Andre Gooden, Group Business Development Manager, Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark, Minister of Finance and Public Service, and I think he should be joining us later, Ms. Judith Slater, British High Commissioner, Mr. Jorge Antonio Tortos, Charge d'Affaires, Embassy of the Republic of Costa Rica, other members of the Diplomatic Corps, Ms. Melanie Samtini, Climate Change Officer, IDB Invest, she's joining us online, other members of the IDB team, Ms. Kishan Kodo, Resident Representative, UNDP, for Jamaica and Belize, other members of the UNDP team, Mr. Angus Young, Chief Executive Officer, NCB Capital Markets Limited, Dr. Derek Rajak, Chief Executive Officer, CARICRIS, Ms. Eleanor Jones, Chief Executive Officer, Environmental Solutions Limited, Mrs. Monique French, Chief Credit Officer, CIBC Caribbean, Mr. Douglas Cupidon, Director, Corporate Credit, CIBC Caribbean, Mr. Wayne Ray, Director, Innovative Energy Group Limited, Mrs. Yvonne Vogt, Consultant, HPL LLC, and she's joining us online, Ms. Andrea Kelly, General Manager, JCSD and JCSD Trustee Services, Ms. Charlene Steer, Marketing Officer, JSC, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome you all. Thank you for joining us both in person and online for the launch of the Jamaica Green Social Sustainability and Sustainability Linked Bond Guide, GSS, or simply Green Bond Guide for short. The Green Bond Guide that we are launching today is a comprehensive resource designed to support issuers, investors, and other stakeholders in navigating this evolving landscape. It provides detailed insight into the principles, frameworks, and best practices underpinning these financial instruments. Today marks a significant milestone in our collective journey towards a more sustainable and environmentally responsible future for all Jamaicans and investors in Jamaica. As we gather here, we are reminded of the urgent need to address the global challenges posed by climate change, environmental degradation, and social inequity, which significantly challenges and impacts small island countries like ours because of, naturally, the geographic relocation and limited resources. The financial sector plays an important role in ensuring that we mitigate the risk by providing funding and governance for green initiatives, and it is for this reason we introduce to the market what we believe is a powerful tool in assisting in moving the needle forward. I'd like to pause to recognize the Minister. Welcome, Minister. The JC has also been at the forefront of Jamaica's financial sector, fostering capital formation and investment opportunities. The JC has also been known for transparency, innovation, and robust regulatory oversight. Therefore, it was not surprising that in 2021, when the government of Jamaica, with the assistance of the Green Climate Fund, launched a green bond project with implementation by the Climate Change Division in the Ministry of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment, and Climate Change, that the Jamaica Stock Exchange was the executing agency. The objective of this project was to design policies and guidelines to facilitate the listing of green bonds in Jamaica and guide the integration of climate financing strategies into national reports, policies, projects, and programs. At the end of December 2023, the project realized certain things. We completed the green bond market assessment. As you know, it's natural that we do that. We also completed the mapping of the market participants, players, that would be the stock exchange, brokers, banks, and other financial institutions, pension funds, rating agencies, real estate, and all the other players that will make the market. And we also ended with the engagement and sensitization of relevant financial market stakeholders through the hosting of an inaugural ESG workshop. But as I indicated earlier, where we are today is a collective effort. Therefore, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, building upon the advancement made through the GCF initiative, enlisted technical support from the IDB Invest in December 2023 to further its endeavors in cultivating a conducive environment for a green bond market ecosystem. This one-year project was aimed at achieving two primary goals: the formulating a sustainability roadmap and action plan for the Jamaica Stock Exchange and unveiling a comprehensive green, social, sustainability, and sustainability-linked guide for Jamaica. And we are happy to say it's for Jamaica. We thank the consulting firm HPL LLC, which in January 2024 was engaged to develop a green bond, and they did that. They did that within time. The purpose of the guide is to provide the Jamaican market with existing tools for the issuance of GSS plus bond and thus influence the advancement towards sustainable financing. With the support of IDB Invest, the JC, and the MOFPS, the project was mobilized, thanks for the funding, Minister, and it was completed within schedule and has led us to where we are today. the launch of this guide. And it can be accessed from the Jamaica Stock Exchange, jamstockex.com, investor/green bonds. But we have also gone a little further than that to ensure that we concretize this in the minds of persons. So the JSE is also developing a dedicated platform for the continuous sharing of market information on important environmental matters and climate adaptation. As the JSE continues to play a vital role in promoting sustainable finance and supporting the issuance of green, social, and other sustainable bonds to finance impactful regional projects and initiatives, we have also utilized the eCampus in order to fulfill that role of continued market education. This positions us now to make the rubber hit the road, which is the opening of the market for companies to access funding on the Jamaica green bond market. The infrastructure for this market is being built out now along the lines of the Green Bond Guide, and we are excited to report that we will still have IDB Invest on board with us on this journey. We are also deeply engaged with service providers such as CARICRIS, who will provide the level of assurance rating of these bonds prior to and during the life of the bond to ensure market integrity and transparency. We also have on board several brokers and other financial intermediaries who will assist institutions in the preparation of and issuance of green bonds. So the ecosystem is taking its time to be put together. We are also happy to report that there are prospective issuers, not only in Jamaica, but within the region, who are excited about the potential opportunity to issue green bonds. Given the global challenges posed by climate change and social inequality, investors, now that's closing the loop, investors are showing a growing interest in supporting the global sustainability agenda and aiding the shift towards low-carbon, equitable economy. Therefore, it is fair to assume that there is a market, and this market could prove active for investors within the space. The Jamaica Green Bond Guide will play a pivotal role in achieving these objectives. I would therefore like to extend thanks to all the contributors who worked tirelessly to develop this best-in-class guide. The patience, participation, dedication, experience, and vision that you have lent to this development have been instrumental in bringing this project to fruition. In closing, let us embrace the opportunities presented by green, social, and sustainable linked bonds. By leveraging these instruments, we can unlock new pathways for funding and assist in creating a sustainable future, because we have contributed to improving our environment. Thank you for joining us today as we embark on a journey for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Forrest. Certainly encapsulated our journey thus far. The next, we'll get remarks from a lady, Miss Malini Samtini, who, after we established the market assessment, completed the market assessment, we then needed to move to the next level in terms of getting the framework in place. And we, with the blessing of the Minister of Finance, we engaged IDB Invest. And we gave this IDB team a very aggressive timeline, and they said, yes, we can. And this lady, Malini Samtini, Climate Change Officer, Advisory Services Division of IDB Invest, put together a team, including HPL, that got the job done. and we're very grateful. And I now ask Ms. Malini Samtini, who is online, to join us and make her own remarks. Good morning, Malini.
Good morning, Andre, and good morning, everyone, also from my side and from IDB Invest. I'd like to start by thanking Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clarke, Minister. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your partnership. Dr. Marlene Forrest, Miss Judith Slater, Mr. Jorge Antonio, thank you all for your partnership throughout this project. So, as Dr. Forrest mentioned, this is a big milestone for us as well. We've worked very hard over the last couple of months with all of you, with all of our partners, to get to this launch today of the Green, Social, Sustainable, and Sustainability Linked Bond Guide. This is the first bond guide, the first thematic bond guide in the English-speaking Caribbean. So congratulations to all of you. When we first started thinking and, following this assessment that Dr. Forrest mentioned, we started to think about how can we best mobilize social impact? How can we best mobilize environmental impact for Jamaica? How can we best mobilize development finance? Because as you know, the challenges with climate change, they're already happening. The social challenges, they're already happening. Also the ones that are social challenges due to climate change. And what is clear, not only in Jamaica, but all around the world, is that governments cannot do it alone. They need participation, they need leadership from the business community as well. And what we've seen all around the world, but also in Latin America and the Caribbean, where IDB Invest works, is that green bonds, social bonds, sustainability bonds, and sustainability linked bonds, you will have a presentation after this on the difference between each of them. But for short, GSS plus bonds really are where the business community, but also governments, can take leadership on creating and generating that social environmental impact. And so what we found globally, the GSS plus market has reached $1 trillion per year. But so far, there have only been 2 transactions, 2 GSS bonds in the English-speaking Caribbean. And so the idea with creating this guide was to bring together all the stakeholders, the financial sectors, companies that may be able to issue a GSS bond, second-party opinion providers, credit rating agencies, the government, all the different players that need to participate in this ecosystem, and then do a benchmarking of different guides around the world and bring the best practices and bring the lessons learned from each of those, and then have a conversation with stakeholders locally to see what the issues are locally, what the climate change impact issues are, what the social issues are, so that we can localize some of these best practices and lessons learned. So that's a lot of the work we've done with many of you over the last couple of months, and we're truly very excited today to publish this. I'm delighted to hear from Dr. Forrest that there's many potential investors that are already interested. What this guide does is it takes some examples from all around the world. We've really tried to take examples from markets that are similar to Jamaica and or from industries of which Jamaica has a lot, and see what they've done in terms of green and social finance in other countries, so that it really gives you a flavor. If you're a company that's looking to issue a social bond or a green bond, you can see what types of businesses you can do. The other thing we found is that globally investors are making large commitments specifically to green finance, but also more broadly to sustainable finance. So the capital is there, the investment is there. The issue that we're seeing is that there's not enough assets. So the supply is there, but where the challenge is the demand. How do you create those green assets? And that's exactly what this guide seeks to do. There may be businesses already in the country that have these assets, but this guide will help you to label them, to see what the specific requirements are to gain credibility and issue the first green or social or sustainability linked bond in Jamaica. So having said that, thank you so much for your partnership, for your support, and congratulations at IDB Invest. We're really looking forward to seeing some of the first GSS bonds coming out of Jamaica. Thank you.
Certainly appreciate your remarks and appreciate your support on this project. Thank you very much, Malini. We're now going to ask Mrs. Yvonne Vogt, another key partner, consultant with HPL LLC, to bring her perspective. Good morning, Yvonne. She's also online.
Good morning, Andre. Thanks, everyone. My name is Yvonne Vogt. I'm a consultant at HPL, a sustainable finance consulting firm. Before I begin, I'd like to recognize the special guests of the event, Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Andre Gooden from the JSC, Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, Managing Director from the JSE, Ms. Judith Slater, British High Commissioner to Jamaica, Mr. Jorge Antonio Tortos from the Embassy of Costa Rica, and other distinguished guests. I wanted to extend our gratitude to the JSC and the IDB Invest for trusting us and inviting us to work on this impactful project to develop a green, social, sustainability, and sustainability-linked bond guide for Jamaica. So today I've prepared a brief presentation for you all, summarizing the work that we've done and going over the main findings from this process. So I'll get started. I'm going to start with a brief introduction on the process to develop the GSS Plus Bond Guide. Then I will give a very brief overview on the sustainable finance market in Latin America and in the Caribbean and what we've seen so far. And finally, I'll give you a bit of a teaser of what you can expect when you read the GSS Plus Bond Guide for Jamaica. So starting with the development of the bond guide, as we mentioned, we've been working with the JSE and IDB Invest to develop a GSS Plus bond guide specifically for Jamaica since January of this year. And the objective of this project is that we would develop a guide that would help promote the sustainable finance market in the country. So before we started writing the guide, we did an in-depth benchmarking process to explore what are the approaches that different stock exchanges and financial authorities have taken to develop these types of guides in the past. So what we found out was that there were two main approaches that we've seen in the market. We've seen stock exchanges and financial authorities, both in the region and in other regions around the world, develop their own guidance documents. So we took a look at those examples and did a deep dive to identify what are the aspects that they cover in their guides. And we've also seen other stock exchanges such as Luxembourg, London, and Toronto reference existing guidance in the market. For the case of Jamaica, we thought it would be important that the Jamaica Stock Exchange develops its own guide to really contextualize the issues and help create a guidance document that really is focused on the specific opportunities and challenges within the country related to sustainable finance. When we talk about the process to develop the bond guide, as I mentioned, we started from the bond guide benchmarking to start the research process. But in the development of the guide, we also did an in-depth stakeholder engagement with the primary and secondary stakeholders that were mapped by the Jamaica Stock Exchange, where we held 4 workshops, 2 trainings, and 1 recording on the GSS Plus Bond Guide. The objective of the stakeholder engagement process was to engage key stakeholders in the Jamaican markets and also gather valuable feedback that helped, that was an important input in the final guidance that you can see in the right of the page, which is the published guidance for the Jamaican market. Now I'll talk a little bit about what we're seeing today in terms of sustainable finance in Latin America and in the Caribbean. So when we talk about the sustainable debt market, we talk about 2 main instruments. The first is the use of proceeds bonds, which include green, social, or sustainability bonds. And these are debt instruments where debt is raised in order to finance or refinance projects that have positive environmental or social impact. In the case of these types of bonds, the International Capital Markets Association, otherwise known as ICMA, has created voluntary guidelines that define 4 core components that issuers need to follow in order to issue a green, social, or sustainability bond. These core components are a definition of use of proceeds, which are the eligible projects that can be financed. The second is that the issuer should have a process to evaluate and select projects that will be eligible for the framework. The third component is that there should be a transparent process to manage and allocate the funds to eligible projects. And finally, the fourth component is that the issuer should report annually on the impact and allocation of the use of proceeds. The second instrument that we look at when we talk about the sustainable debt market are the sustainability-linked bonds. Sustainability-linked bonds differ in the sense that the use of proceeds can be towards general corporate purposes, but the issuer will commit to a specific sustainability performance target that will be met over a certain period of time. And if the issuer meets or does not meet that target, there will be a financial or a structural impact on the bond itself. Similarly, ICMA has created core components for these instruments. In this case, there are 5. The first is selecting a key performance indicator that is material, core, and relevant for the company. The second is calibrating sustainability performance targets that are ambitious, setting those bond characteristics or what will be the structural or financial impact if you meet or do not meet those targets. And finally, what is the reporting and annual reporting and verification on those targets? When we talk about the market evolution, globally and both globally and in Latin America and the Caribbean, the market has evolved significantly. At the end of 2023, we saw $4.7 trillion in cumulative volume globally. And in Latin America and the Caribbean, at the end of the first quarter, we've reached 190 billion cumulative issuances. When we zoom into the English-speaking Caribbean, however, the total cumulative issuance volume has been quite small, so 150 million in total, and 3 issuers that we've seen in the Caribbean region. So we really think there is an opportunity to further stimulate and further grow the market in the Caribbean. Furthermore, there has not yet been an issuance of a thematic bond in Jamaica. And finally, another important trend that we're seeing in the market is that different jurisdictions have been developing sustainable finance taxonomies. These are taxonomies that define what type of economic activities can be considered green or social. We've seen a lot of development in Latin America and the Caribbean, with Colombia, Mexico, and Panama recently publishing their taxonomies, and various countries in the process of development of their own taxonomies. Now I'll talk a little bit about what you should expect when you read the GSS Plus Bond Guide for Jamaica. So to issue a GSS Plus bond, Jamaican issuers must follow all the normal bond listing requirements that are listed in the JSE's website in the JSE rules. But in addition, they should also follow the GSS Plus bond requirements, which are the voluntary guidelines set by the ICMA principles. So these are the 4 components for the thematic bonds and the 5 components for the sustainability-linked bonds. When you open up the GSS Plus Bond Guide for Jamaica, we structured the guide in 5 chapters. The first chapter provides an introduction, giving a background on sustainability in the Jamaican capital markets, how the market has evolved, and different sustainable business opportunities that we see in Jamaica. The second chapter provides an overview of the GSS Plus Bond universe, providing definitions of key terms, giving an outline of what is included in these principles, standards, and taxonomies that we're mentioning, and also providing an overview of why robust corporate governance is important for the development of strong thematic bonds. Finally, there's a specific chapter dedicated to the green, social, and sustainability bonds, as well as for the sustainability-linked bonds. And Chapter 5 provides an overview of the step-by-step process, lessons learned, and additional annexes that can be useful for issuers for additional information. So the purpose of this GSS Plus Bond Guide is to really contextualize what are the specific environmental and social issues within Jamaica that could be addressed by GSS Plus instruments, and really provide a step-by-step guide for Jamaican issuers so they understand what are the steps that they need to follow in order to successfully issue these types of instruments. And when we're talking about that step, to summarize really the report, at the end of the bond guide, we provide a summary of what is the step-by-step process. We've summarized this process into 5 key steps. The first one is having a readiness assessment. So the issuer should assess, in the case of the green, social, and sustainability bonds, what are the use of proceeds that they can finance and what would be the eligibility criteria that they would set. Once that is done, the issuer can start to prepare the document for the framework, highlighting the 4 pillars of the ICMA principles. Then they would seek an external review or a second-party opinion to validate that that framework is aligned with the best practices of the market. Then they would go through all of the normal financial processes to issue a bond. And finally, 1 year after issuing, they would have the commitment to report on the allocation and the impact of the use of proceeds. When we talk about the sustainability-linked bonds, we have a similar 5-step process. I will just highlight the differences. Here, the readiness assessment will be more targeted towards understanding the strategy of the issuer and determining what would be those key performance indicators and sustainability performance targets. In the documentation, the sustainability-linked bonds have 5 pillars instead of 4. In the external review, the sustainability-linked bond principles require issuers to have a post-issuance verification of the sustainability performance targets. The issuance process itself will be the same, and the reporting as well will be annual, and will provide the information on the progress towards achieving those sustainability performance targets. So I'd like to thank everyone for your attention, and I appreciate the opportunity to present. Back to you, Andre.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yvonne. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have taken this mandate from the ministry very seriously, and we have partnered with some very important, very purpose-driven institutions, IDB Invest and HPL LLC. I'm going to give you a round, please give them a round of applause again for the fantastic job. Thank you to Malini and Yvonne. So those are the partners who have taken us thus far. But to continue the journey to origination, listing, trading, monitoring, and evaluation, we're going to need some other partners. And some of those partners are also here, and we're thankful for their presence. And we will ask, first of all, Mr. Derek Rajak, Chief Executive Officer of CARICRIS, to come forward and make his remarks. Derek?
Good morning, everyone. Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Andre Gooden, Group Business Development Manager, Jamaica Stock Exchange. Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark, Minister of Finance and Public Service. Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, Managing Director, Jamaica Stock Exchange. Ms. Judith Slater, British High Commissioner to Jamaica. Mr. Jorge Antonio Tortos, Embassy of the Republic of Costa Rica, other members of the Diplomatic Corps, Ms. Malini Samtimi, and other members of the IDB Invest team, Mr. Kishan Kode, representative UNDP, and other members of the UNDP team, fellow presenters, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I stand before you today to celebrate a significant milestone in Jamaica's sustainable finance journey. The Green, Social, Sustainability, and Sustainability Linked, or GSS Plus, Bond Guide is a landmark document that is a testament to Jamaica's commitment to a sustainable future and a significant achievement. I extend my congratulations to the Minister of Finance for the vision and foresight to promote the development of this guide and framework. I also extend congratulations to the Jamaica Stock Exchange for their invaluable leadership in managing the development of the guide and the excellent coordination and facilitation by HPL and IDB Invest. The collaborative efforts were crucial in bringing the bond guide to fruition. CARICRIS was privileged to participate in the development of this document, and I would like to extend our gratitude to the JSC for ensuring our involvement in the process. CARICRIS is the Caribbean's own homegrown credit rating agency with 2 decades of experience in this region, and we are committed to supporting this initiative. We recognize the pivotal role that these instruments play in channeling investments towards environmentally and socially responsible projects. These are important instruments that can drive sustainable development and address pressing social issues. The importance of such an initiative for Jamaica and the wider Caribbean cannot be overstated, especially given our region's vulnerability to climate-related events. Despite minimal contribution to global greenhouse gas emissions, the Caribbean is disproportionately affected by climate change, facing severe hurricanes, rising sea levels, and other environmental challenges. Best practice requires independent assessments for the various types of thematic instruments, which is also included in this bond guide as mentioned. These assessments are a critical part of the framework. By scrutinizing the issuer's sustainability strategy, the use of proceeds, the ongoing performance of funded projects, independent verifications help mitigate risks like greenwashing and ensure that the bonds genuinely contribute to environmental and social goals. CARICRIS will offer verification and second-party opinions on instruments issued under this framework, providing an independent and objective evaluation of an instrument's alignment with the principles outlined in the bond guide, which are themselves aligned to international best practice. Our assessments will provide additional scrutiny to the bond issuance process, mitigating potential risks. Our framework is based on a few key principles. 1, the assessment of the issuer's sustainability strategy, governance, and commitment to environmental and social projects. 2, implementing rigorous controls and monitoring systems to ensure proceeds are allocated to qualified green and social initiatives. 3, evaluation of funded projects' environmental and/or social risks. 4, evaluation and monitoring of key performance indicators associated with sustainability-linked issuances to ensure the achievement of targets and objectives. 5, transparency and quality of information provided on the ongoing performance of funded projects and tracking of sustainability goals, with comprehensive reporting on the progress and impact. And 6, a grading system to summarize overall compliance with the principles outlined in the bond guide and to compare performance among issues and issuers. With this framework, CARICRIS aims to enhance the credibility and transparency of GSS plus instruments in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. Our assessments will provide investors and other stakeholders with the information they need, while also encouraging issuers to adhere to best practices and the principles outlined in the guide. Additionally, our presence in the region and physical presence here in Jamaica would provide easy accessibility for issuers, and we will work to ensure that the process is streamlined and as simple as possible. We believe that our independent coverage and opinions will be crucial in mobilizing capital towards sustainable development projects in the region by promoting a thriving green, social, sustainability, and sustainability-linked bond market. The issuance of these bonds will support Jamaica's environmental and social goals and contribute to the economic growth, job creation, innovation, asset creation, and opportunities for portfolio diversification. I'd like to reiterate CARICRIS's unwavering commitment to supporting the growth of sustainable finance in the Caribbean. We are excited to collaborate with the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the Ministry of Finance, prospective issuers, and other stakeholders to create a more sustainable and prosperous future for Jamaica. In closing, I would like to again congratulate the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the Ministry of Finance, and other involved parties in this significant achievement that will undoubtedly inspire further advancements in sustainable finance and lead to a more resilient future for Jamaica and by extension, the wider region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Derek. Certainly another key partner. So we have framework in place, that box is checked. Bond guide released, that box is checked. Monitoring and evaluation in place, that box is checked. So, Minister, the to-do list for the IMF, you can soon check that box too. We have a couple more steps to go, which would be origination, listing, and trading. So, we are now counting on our other part. I hear that there's actually, Doc, I forgot to tell you this, that there's a race on to see which entity will list the first green bond, and we take on that challenge because it's going to happen this year. I won't tell you which entity will be first, but I know who the favorite is. And we're now going to ask Director of Innovative Energy Group, Mr. Wayne Ray, to join us and give his remarks.
Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Andre Gooden, Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark, Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, Managing Director, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, members of the Diplomatic Corps, fellow guest speakers, presenters, stakeholders all. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. I am certainly privileged and excited to be here at this auspicious occasion, the official launch of the Jamaica Green, Social, and Sustainable Linked Bond Guide. I won't say it again, you don't have to worry. For the Innovative Energy Group in particular, and myself in general, we have been anticipating these guidelines that will facilitate and accelerate the development of Jamaica's capital market. The Innovative Energy Group, a renewable energy company, was formally listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange on March 28, 2024, having acquired the main market company, Siboney Group Limited, in 2023. As we reviewed our strategic plan and outlook for the industry last year, we were pleased to hear of the progress of the Green Bond Initiative, as it was referred to in short, and very importantly, the recognition of the urgency to prepare our region for climate change, which, as we know, affects us all across the planet. For us, in the business of renewable energy, we envision how this realization could support and advance the small economies of the Caribbean. The initiatives of the JSE, the government, and the international community over the last several years have culminated in this guide that is being launched this morning. For those of us who have gone through the training on the guide to develop, finance, and operate green, social, sustainable, and sustainability-linked bonds for the Jamaica market, it is not for the faint of heart. It does require sound business planning, strong capital structure, detailed and regular, particularly for businesses, environmentalists, financial intermediaries, and investors to instill new life in our country, our communities, and our people, as we have been seeing across the globe. The Innovative Energy Group, with the ticker symbol Energy, has 30 years of experience through our affiliated company, Innovative Energy Company, led by our chairman, Mr. Nigel Davey, who has a proven track record of installing energy infrastructure projects in Jamaica and the region. IEG's vision is to become Jamaica's and the region's premier vertically clean and engineering company while being a steward of the environment. Our investment in the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange demonstrates our understanding and commitment to our communities, and as this is the only way that sustainability will be ensured. We recognize that green bond listings will appeal to new investors, local and international, fund managers, and international partners. I'm sure that the minister may have something to say about foreign direct investments for Jamaica, but I'll leave that. Successful green bond listings will require large, diverse, and reputable partners, and we at IEG have begun that engagement with those stakeholders. We also understand that economies of scale of operations and diversification of projects and their locations will be essential for local and regional companies to attract the appropriate cost of capital to secure the expected return on investment. As the Innovative Energy Group organizes for the next round of mergers and acquisition, we believe that Jamaican-listed companies such as ourselves, with the requisite corporate governance guidelines and the transparent reporting requirements of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, are better equipped for success. It is therefore with this in mind that we at the Innovative Energy Group welcome and congratulate the government, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the IDB Invest team, and HPL for this impetus for the success in Jamaica and the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Foreign direct investment, that's another consequence of this initiative. We're now going to ask some of our bankers to give their perspective very briefly. And I'm going to ask Ms. Monique French, Chief Credit Officer, CIBC Caribbean, to come forward. Please welcome her.
Good morning, Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Andre Gooden, Group Development Manager, Jamaica Stock Exchange, Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark, Dr. Marlin Street Forrest, Managing Director, Jamaica Stock Exchange, Ms. Judith Slater, British High Commissioner to Jamaica, Dr. Jorge Antonio Tortos, Embassy of the Republic of Costa Rica, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the IDB team, members of the UNDP team, fellow presenters all, members of the media, distinguished guests. It is my pleasure to bring remarks on behalf of CIBC Caribbean on this really important launch of the first GSS Plus guide for our English-speaking Caribbean region. And the importance of the moment is underscored by the fact that I brought with me 3 other colleagues from CIBC as a bank that is leading the region in sustainable financing. I have with me today also Douglas Cupidon, our Director of Corporate Credit Risk, Ms. Anit Dawkins, who heads our corporate banking in Jamaica, and our environmental risk specialist, Ms. Jodianne Maxwell. I would like to acknowledge the Minister for his efforts in providing an enabling environment for us in Jamaica to have enhanced our resilience to the impacts of climate change. To the IDB Invest for providing technical support for this very important guide. To HPL LLC for providing their consulting expertise. And of course, to Dr. Marlin Street Forrest and the Jamaica Stock Exchange on leading the charge for the development of this roadmap. Only 30 days ago, Jamaica and the Eastern Caribbean were grappling with Hurricane Beryl, one of the earliest Atlantic Category 5 hurricanes. So we are no strangers to really understanding in practical terms when we talk about the disproportionate impact of climate risk and environmental risk on our region. The rising frequency and severity of these climate events highlights our vulnerability and the ongoing need for robust and innovative solutions, and that includes financing solutions. Moves such as Jamaica's catastrophe bond and the GSE's focus on sustainability financing bolsters confidence both for those who reside here and for both who are looking to invest from outside in our ability, in Jamaica's capacity to meet the imperatives and opportunities of the changing climate and environmental context in which we live. The bond market can play, indeed it must play, a pivotal role in mobilizing resources to meet our national development objectives and facilitating the shift we have to make to a low-carbon, climate-resilient economy, both in Jamaica and in the region. According to the latest Climate Bond Initiative, June 2024 report, thematic bond issuances have reached almost $5 trillion. This underscores the timeliness and significance of Jamaica's own green, social sustainability and sustainability-linked guide. Private sector actors, including us as banks, have an indispensable role in mobilizing the capital, and CIBC Caribbean is committed to this effort. As with anything new, it can appear a bit daunting. We encourage corporate firms to embrace the GSE guide, as it provides a tangible, practical, and useful information to make sustainable finance more accessible. The better a company understands its main objectives, the main financing types, and its own governance preparedness and reporting in relation to these types of financing, the more likely it is to engage successfully with financing and advisory partners. CIBC Caribbean is also changing. CIBC has begun the process of integrating into its credit risk management process climate and environmental risk. We have recruited environmental credit risk management subject matter expertise And we are becoming increasingly sophisticated in how we monitor and manage these risks. We are updating policies, guidelines, documentation, and indeed adjusting the way in which we figure out how to socialize and help to inform our customers. CIBC Caribbean has an extensive record of putting its money where its mouth is in regards to sustainability financing. Regional initiatives include, in 2021, CIBC Caribbean was a joint lead arranger of the Barbados Blue Bond, a debt for nature swap of US $150 million, where interest savings funded marine conservation projects. That bond is currently outstanding and doing well. To date, we have arranged at CIBC Caribbean bilateral and syndicated financing amounting to over $642 million related to renewable energy. And we have committed another almost $300 million US to contributing to other projects of that nature. And when we talk about that in terms of how it hits the ground, that's installed capacity of 566 megawatts. We have financed electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles of almost $8 million US across the region. And recently, we too have signed the MOU with IDB Invest, again, to show that we are serious about building our capabilities and our partnership to bolster climate resilient financing across various sectors, aligning with broader sustainability goals. We are actively building a robust pipeline to support our local and regional development programs. Congratulations again to the Jamaica Stock Exchange on this really important milestone. CIBC Caribbean is ready to support the Jamaican business community as it embarks on this important journey. We are committed to advancing the region and Jamaica's sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monique, and we're looking forward to the support. Now I'm going to ask Chief Executive Officer, NCB Capital Markets, Mr. Angus Young, to bring his remarks. Please welcome him too.
Good morning, Jamaica. Wagwan. Dr. Street Forest, that was a good one? Yeah? All right. Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark, Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Marlene Street Forest, Managing Director, Jamaica Stock Exchange, members of the Diplomatic Corps, fellow presenters, all members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to Jamaica and the JSE for once again being first mover in the region with respect to another initiative that promises to be high impact. The Jamaica Stock Exchange is accustomed to being a first mover. It was recognized internationally by Bloomberg as being the world's best performing stock exchange in 2015 and 2018. The Jamaica Stock Exchange pioneered the junior stock market platform in the Caribbean region. The equivalent platform in Trinidad and Tobago is named the SME Exchange, and truth be told, its legislative roots originate from Jamaica. The Jamaica Stock Exchange is working with tech-heavy NASDAQ exchange in the United States, which in the future will allow local brokers to short sell and margin trade. Today's launch is a positive step towards driving an increased amount of capital dedicated to GSS Plus initiatives. Now, with GSS Plus initiatives, the Jamaica Stock Exchange will facilitate domestic and global asset managers who are eager to support their Caribbean-focused ESG appetites and mandates. GSS Plus is extremely important to Jamaica. One example that demonstrates why is energy security. I will share some statistics that resonate with me because I became very aware of them when I moved to Jamaica from Trinidad in December 2023. Electricity in Jamaica costs the consumer 7 times what we pay in Trinidad and Tobago. Cooking gas in Jamaica costs the consumer 5 times what we pay in Trinidad, and petrol twice. Now, let me be clear. This is not because the government is wicked. This is so because the people of Trinidad and Tobago are highly subsidized by the country's oil and gas natural resources. The move to renewable sources of power in Jamaica cannot lose momentum, as it is imperative that economies like Jamaica dial back their reliance on non-renewable fossil fuels, the prices of which have proven to be volatile, and also not having its own domestic access to same exposes a country to supply, price, and logistics risk. In late 2023, a 100 megawatt electricity generation renewable energy build, owned, and operate request for proposal was issued. This is in line with Jamaica's goal of achieving 50% renewables in its energy grid by 2030. This procurement signifies a step towards a cleaner and more sustainable and secure energy future for Jamaica. The 100 megawatt RFP, the winners of the 100 megawatt RFP have to be financed. The GSS Plus initiative is live. So, Minister, when I think about how do we scale the GSS Plus, I think about making securities tax-free. Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clarke, Minister of Finance and Public Service, over to you. Thank you.
Were you speaking as director of the stock exchange or what? Thank you very much, Angus, for those remarks. And thank you to all the bankers in the house. We see some who have come in and quietly held their seat. We're counting on you as well for the same level of support. So thank you for being here. Morris, Dwight, and others. All right, our next speaker, our keynote speaker, is none other than the Minister of Finance. And Minister, your predecessor, Minister Shaw, when he was in this building, refers to himself as the godfather of the Jamaica Stock Exchange junior market. And I don't think that will change. As far as you're concerned, I don't think you're elder statesman status, yes. I wouldn't refer to you as the godfather, but the chief proponent and cheerleader of green capital. If you want to refer yourself as a godfather, you're free to do so. But I wouldn't take those liberties out of respect. But we admire the initiative and the vision and of taking us to where we are today and trusting us to get this done. We now invite you to come and share your own remarks. Please welcome the Minister.
Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Dr. Street Forrest, Head of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, UK High Commissioner to Jamaica, Judith Slater, members of the financial fraternity here and overseas, the IDBs here, welcome to them. Members of the media, good morning. Boy, dead in your soul. It's good to be here this morning on the launch of this extremely important initiative. And we have a number of institutions to thank for what we celebrate today. First of all, to thank the Jamaica Stock Exchange for taking this on. Jamaica could have chosen other implementing agencies, but due to the track record of the stock exchange and the leadership of Marnie Street Forrest, there's no better choice for implementation than the stock exchange. We're also grateful, as others have mentioned, for the technical assistance from the IDB and IDB Invest in particular, without whom we would not be able to celebrate what we do today. And we also recognize the contribution of the consulting firm, HP LLC, and the brilliant presentation that was given earlier. Now, the context in which this Green Bond Initiative occurs is Jamaica's Resilience and Sustainability Facility with the International Monetary Fund. Jamaica has become so adept at abiding by its international commitments, including its agreements with the fund, that it no longer makes headlines. But over the past 18 months, Jamaica has been in a precautionary and liquidity line with the IMF, and that continues, and a Resilience and Sustainability Trust. You will recall that in December of 2022, we made the announcement that with the RSF becoming available and approximately $800 million approximately, that would be available to Jamaica at interest rates that were below market commercial rates, and in the context of Jamaica having at that time about $1.5 billion of maturities over the 2 years from December 2022, it just made logical sense to access the RSF, which also came with the PLL. And under the Resilience and Sustainability Facility, Jamaica agreed to a number of institutional reforms, all of which we have achieved. So the final review of the PLL and the RSF occurred as at June 30th, and it will be obviously official when they release it. But certainly the staff report came out, which points to Jamaica meeting all of its structural benchmarks under those two programs. Doesn't make the news anymore, but it's a tremendous achievement for our country. Doesn't make the local news, that is. For other people, it is very significant. Now, one of the final benchmarks that we agreed to was to put in place the infrastructure for green bonds to be able to be issued from Jamaica. Now, for us, we don't even have to talk about climate change because we are on the forefront of its effects. We can just talk about natural disasters, and there's no debate, because the frequency and severity of natural disasters today are unlike what they were when we were born. Let's use that as the time frame. There's certainly been tremendous change in the ferocity and the frequency of natural disasters in our region. We just went through Hurricane Beryl, the earliest Category 5 hurricane in the Caribbean's history. And we have seen firsthand how devastating the impact of these events can be. While Hurricane Beryl barreled through the southern waters of Jamaica, 50 miles south of landmass, the effect was nevertheless quite devastating. And even though it was 50 miles south, by the time it got there, its central air pressure was similar to a Category 3 hurricane. Yet, the damage was so intense. And the damage from hurricanes, some of it is direct, and some of it is indirect. Once they get your power stations, then you end up with a lot of consequential damage. You need power to pump water. So without power, your water goes. You need power to pump cell towers. Without power, you have no mobile connectivity, and so forth. You have no mobile connectivity, you have no water, and other things are denied to the population. So the impact of climate change through natural disasters imposes a real and significant cost to countries like Jamaica. Schools are damaged. Thank God this hurricane came in the holiday season. I had a conversation with the Minister of Education yesterday. Had this hurricane come in October, the same hurricane, you'd have probably had 96 schools that would have been closed for 3 months because the damage would have been so severe. So you're talking about, not to mention the damage to certain clinics and hospitals that have lost their roofs. So we're talking about real, sometimes we measure it in simply the financial costs of repairing the roofs and reinstalling the utility poles. But the damage to human lives and to human development and attainment goes far beyond what any number can capture. So the strategy of the government, or certainly the strategy of the Ministry of Finance, has been to put in place a multi-layered suite of financial instruments to provide resources in the event of a natural disaster. For a long time, we depended on a single layer, and no single layer can cover the entire range of natural disaster risks that exist. We have high-frequency events that happen every year. We have to provide for those. And we also have events that happen every 10 years. We have to provide for those, and God forbid the events that happen every 25 years. Domestic savings, while they can deal with the high-frequency events, they're unlikely to be enough to deal with the less frequent, more severe events. And insurance products are not going to kick in for your annual events, right? So you need a range of financial instruments, and you need to keep it in place over a long period of time. And we've made a lot of progress with that and demonstrated in this hurricane the efficacy of this approach. For the first time that I'm aware of at least, prior to a hurricane arriving in Jamaica, the day before, we all spent the Wednesday at home, right? So the Tuesday, I was able to write instructions for $4 billion to be moved from the contingencies fund to the accountant general in preparation to be released. These were funds that we had put away voluntarily for a rainy day such as a hurricane. So the money was standing, waiting to go. However, I'm here to say that that is well and good, and we have to continue with that approach and build on it over time. But that alone will not provide the solutions that we need. We're also going to, in addition to disaster risk financing, we're going to have to pursue a strategy of climate adaptation. Because you'll never be able to put enough money away. You'll never be able to afford all the insurance that is required. The effects are just too devastating, as Beryl will show. I hear everybody talking about Category 4, but you look at the centralized air pressure as they pass south of Jamaica. It was a Category 3 air pressure, 960 millibars, south of Jamaica, 50 miles away. Can you imagine what it would have been if it just came a little bit closer, if it came over the land of Jamaica? If it was a Category 4 that settled on Jamaica? Gilbert was Category 3 as well. Imagine it was a Category 5 settled on Jamaica. You wouldn't... Just completely devastating. So we have to use the time that we have to make sure that we not only put funds aside, but that we engage in adaptation strategies that are required to prepare. Climate adaptation is simply taking the steps required to prepare for the inevitable consequences of natural disaster-induced climate change. The current trajectory and the future trajectory, i.e. that it can get worse. And adaptation means that you're going to adapt the way you do things to reduce the potential damage that occurs when a storm passes. I give you a simple example. As a member of parliament, one of the honorable things that you need to do is you're responsible for cleaning gullies and drains in your constituency. And it's a very honorable task, because if they are not clean, I give you an example that I saw with Beryl, is that before Beryl came, somebody cut down the mango trees in their yard because they were afraid that if they were blown down, if the mango tree was blown down, it would hit their roof and cause damage to their house. They took the branches of the mango tree and they put them in a gully that runs behind their houses. You know how Kingston was developed? There are lots of places that gully runs behind the house, right? And this was in a residential community. Well, it so happens that that gully that runs behind the house is a gully that is fed by another gully that comes in. And the water from Beryl came in so fast and furious that the branches of the mango tree and the leaves in the gully meant that it backed up. And I don't know if we understand the ferocity of water. It is more ferocious, it can be more ferocious than wind. The water backed up so powerfully, it overflowed its bank, went into the house on that bordered the gully. Up to that high, you can see the marks inside of the house. But worse than that, this was not static water. This was water with force. It pummeled through, went to the front of the house, knocked over a concrete wall. Just imagine the ferocity that I'm talking about. There's a concrete fence completely knocked over, rushed across the road, and flooded out the houses on the other side of the road. That's the ferocity of the kind of water that can come from a hurricane. And adaptation means that, look, okay, the hurricane is going to come, the water is going to come, but we have to adapt our circumstances to make sure that when it comes, it doesn't cause this damage. Now, other examples of that adaptation, that is easy, because that's just not putting mango branches in the gully. And when I went and visited afterwards, and the leaves were as green as these leaves here, meaning it was cut down the day before the hurricane, right? But that's easy, because that doesn't cost money. The challenge is that the other adaptation that we need costs money. It means ensuring that our houses are built with better stock. It probably means that as far as agriculture is concerned, we have better storage arrangements and backup power. It would mean that as far as the way in which we dispose of sewage has to be a step above what we do today, right? And we just have it run into the sea. It means having backup power for our pumps and water installations across the country, backup power for our telecom installations across the country. It means raising certain roads. It means making sure that our bridges can be resistant to storms and flooding. It might mean putting utilities underground. A host of measures that can make us more resilient to the natural disasters that are a part of our lives, reduce the human and financial costs. But it's going to cost money to do that. Similarly, our hotels are huge users of electricity, which for the time being is produced from imported hydrocarbons. That makes Jamaica less sustainable. And half the energy that is produced are for, very cold rooms that are unoccupied. Mitigation would mean that our hotels transition to more renewable forms of energy that's more sustainable. But again, that's going to cost funding and cost money. So the strategies that are involved in climate mitigation and climate adaptation can be extremely beneficial to our society. The challenge, however, is that they cost money, and sometimes, if they're financed at commercial terms, they may not be economically viable. So, we are committed to a market economy, but we have a conundrum that the things that are good for us, the things that are necessary for our own sustainability, are too expensive for us to undertake. So the innovation that exists to solve this problem is the innovation of green financing, which obviously is not a Jamaican innovation. This is a global innovation, where there are good and forward-thinking providers of capital who want to make impactful investments for which they'll get a financial return, but because they are so interested in the impact, they're willing to take less than market return if it can be proven that their funds are going to be used for sustainable projects. And the world of green capital, i.e. the capital that's available and that wants to be used in this way, has exploded over the past decade and a half. Whenever I go on road shows for Jamaica, even if they are non-deal road shows, I meet, you go to the financial capitals of the world, and you'll meet 30 to 40 investors. Sometimes, you might be 5 in a group, and many people you meet individually, the bigger ones. But overall, you might meet 30 investors in a city, and you go to several cities. And I often encounter investors with large amounts of capital who say, look, anything green? Because my mandate is green, and I can't do anything outside of that. And I'm sitting on billions of dollars. The green capital available in the world is in the order of hundreds of billions of dollars that are simply looking for impactful projects that are sustainable and that are green in nature. And Jamaica needs to put itself within the pathway of those funds. Now, the challenge is that, as you know, human nature, if there's capital available, everybody's going to want to get it, right? And so what happens invariably is that, it's not only in Jamaica you have Jim Screech. Jim Screech exists everywhere. So the Jim Screech thing with this is to dress something up and make it look like it's green and sustainable, and then get the money at a concessional interest rate. That's human nature. So the challenge that green investors have around the world is having a reliable system. The fancy word that is used in the industry is taxonomy, a green taxonomy, i.e. very transparent and public rules that govern what is meant by the word green in your country. Okay, anybody can use the word. Everybody just say, look, man, I have some green things for you, and I have some green things over here. I have this to sell you. Right? That's the world that we're in. So, because of that, for us to be able to compete and to differentiate ourselves, we have to come out now with a tested taxonomy, or as the word we use here is guidelines, that we say to the world, when Jamaica says that we have a green issue, because the world don't have time to look at, what John is doing and what Mary is doing and look at them individually. No. What they want to know is that there's the institutional mechanism to, when it says that what John is doing or what Innovative Energy is doing is green, it means it is green. Because here are the criteria that are publicly available for everybody to see. And of course, we have it been independently verified by another institution, CARICRIS. So what we're doing here as policymakers is we are creating the environment with the assistance of our international partners. As I said, the IMF, very crucial. This was a part of our agreement with them, the IDB that provided the technical advice. But what we're doing is putting in place the infrastructure to enable green financing to take off, to enable Jamaica, Jamaican projects, Jamaican entrepreneurs, Jamaican financial institutions to tap into this growing and significant pool of capital that's available for sustainable projects. Now, after today, we have done our part. Of course, it has to be maintained. Of course, Stock Exchange has to maintain it and make sure the standards are appropriate and that people follow the guidelines and we don't have any, greenwashing or anything like that. But the substantive work has been done and is going to be necessary for others to follow up. And that's why I'm happy to see the audience that we have today. And we have bankers and lawyers and consultants, because it's now up to you to take advantage of this infrastructure. There are hundreds of billions of dollars being managed in the financial capitals of the world that are looking for green projects. And here in Jamaica, we have our green, social, sustainable, and sustainable link platform that's backed by multilateral financial institutions that provides you with the framework to bring projects to market and to seek financing. And what we're going to need credible, dynamic, financial intermediary entrepreneurs to take advantage of this opportunity. Dynamic, credible financial institution entrepreneurs who are able to bridge or provide a bridge between the providers of green capital, wherever they may be, and the many, many projects that we have in Jamaica that need to be financed. And we're going to have to think in a different lens. So, there may be a hotel coming that wants to be built, and it's coming to your credit committee or to your, your commercial banker, or that corporate banker. And you can go for the traditional financing to build a hotel and da-da-da-da-da. But you say, look, Jamaica is moving in this direction. We have to have sustainable da-da-da-da. Right? If you put in a renewable plan to fund this part of the operation, you can probably access some green financing, which is going to be at lower rates, go to the stock exchange, get the thing approved, etc., etc. I don't have to tell you how to do your job. But it's going to require a different kind of thinking to take advantage. And we're going to rely on the financial intermediary entrepreneurs here, and we have some big ones here, right, to pace the pavement in the big capitals of the world and let the providers of capital know that Jamaica is ready, that we have this framework in place, and that there's a house for your green dollars right here in Jamaica. Because what we want is to see this market here grow from strength to strength. And I say to you that even the government of Jamaica will need to access green financing for its projects. Because the things that the government does has to be commercially viable as well. So whether it's NWC or it's the NHT, green financing is going to be applicable to them as well. So this, ladies and gentlemen, a brand new area that entrepreneurial financial intermediaries, we expect you to take full advantage of so that Jamaica can engage in the kind of adaptation and mitigation measures that allows us to be more resilient against the disasters that we're vulnerable to. As I've said elsewhere, the policy is that we have to take responsibility for our vulnerability. And this green, social, sustainable, and sustainably linked platform is a perfect example of this. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Minister. Just before you go, one question. On Friday, I think I heard the announcement about a tax credit for purchase of solar panels or solar equipment. Could you just put a little color on that for us in terms, for example, of how it would benefit PAYE people, for example?
Thank you. That's another initiative that we pursued under this Resilience and Sustainability Trust. The idea there is to provide some kind of incentive for households who are so minded to transition into renewable energy themselves and to make an installation to put solar panels on their roofs. And what the government is saying is, to the extent that you make that investment, you can write that investment off against your income taxes up to a particular limit. I think the limit is, was it 3 million, I think, if I'm not mistaken? So for a PAYE person, what would happen is, because PAYE, you pay your tax month by month, right, at source. So what would happen is that you'd file a tax return claiming the income tax credit, and you'd be entitled to either a refund or a credit for future taxes. Does that make sense? So the idea here, and look, there's no policy that doesn't have the intended benefit is to essentially assist people in acquiring renewable energy infrastructure for their household. Because when you get a tax credit, it's like the government paying 25% of it, right? So it is cheaper than it would, instead of it costing you 100, it would cost you 75 because the government is chipping in 25. But you have to do some work yourself, right? It requires, just like in other countries, it requires you engaging with the tax office and demonstrating to them that you have made this investment and you will get the credit for it. So it's a suite of initiatives. We're not just doing one thing. It's not just disaster risk financing, green bond platform, income tax credit for solar installations. We're serious about making our country more sustainable and more resilient. That has to be, Jamaica is a very independent place. The psychology of the Jamaican, extremely independent. So it's time that our policies are aligned with who we are as a people. We don't want to be in a position where we are dependent on the outside world. No, there's always interdependence, don't get me wrong. And we want to be a member of the international community that works with other countries, realizing we can't do everything on our own and we will need help, for sure. But there's a difference between needing help from time to time and being serially dependent, right? And for us to be independent and at the same time face these kinds of vulnerabilities, the only way to square that circle is for us to invest heavily in sustainability. Yeah? And so that's what we're doing in a multi-pronged environment, and I'm happy that the stock exchange is leading on this axis of it.
Thank you very much, Minister. Very comprehensive presentation, and certainly we join you in the challenge to the originators to bring the projects to us. Let's get this done. So again, thank you for your time, Minister. And also want to, in doing the vote of thanks, just also recognize everybody who participated today. Certainly, thank you to our Managing Director for the vision. Thank you to IDB Invest and HPL LLC, who are our dynamic partners on this project. Thank you, Derek, CEO, Carrie Chris, Mr. Wayne Ray, Director, Innovative Energy, Mrs. French, CIBC Caribbean, Mr. Angus Young, NCB Capital Markets. Special thanks also to our project manager who have taken us thus far Patrice Smith-Lindo at the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Great job so far. Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to the originations coming in. We are ready. Let's go. Let's save our planet. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good day. We have some refreshments in the rear before you leave. Thank you.